this is my. We're live! Hello!
Yay! Hello!
Hey!
Hey, everybody!
Hello!
Sacred ceremony, sacred sharing space. Hello, hello. Welcome. Our first one.
Yes!
Yay!
Where are we coming from?
Coming from the Gold Coast, Australia.
I'm coming from San Diego, California, all the way on the other side of the world.
We're spreading light all over the world. I love this. It's so exciting.
Love and light all over the world.
And welcome to anyone that's watching the recording or the replay. Yay, yay, yay. So happy and excited to have you here. First, I just wanted to say that this is a sacred sharing space and that anything is welcome in here and that there's no judgment. And I just and I ask that there's respect for everyone involved and that we just here with a full heart of love. Do we agree with that?
We agree.
Yay!
We the people agree.
Awesome. All right, let's just drop us into a little prayer to open the space and just give some gratitude for what we've created here today. So if you feel comfortable, I just get you to close down your eyes and we just invite God, Source, Universe, we just thank you for this opportunity to join together all over the world in this sacred space, this sacred sharing space, and have it be open to whatever needs to come through in this time and allow us to let go of anything that's not serving us and be able to set new intentions, especially for this new moon in Taurus, and that we are supported by our higher selves, and we're just bringing our higher selves into this space, into this time space dimension, and we just ask that you surround us in a crystalline sphere around our being to keep our energy safe, protected and supported. And we just ask that this is for the best and highest good for everyone involved, everyone that wants to join in this space full of love and new intentions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. Yay.
Amen.
So great to have you. Thank you. So today we've got a new moon in Taurus happening today. And so I thought we'd just share like some of the things that the new moon is bringing about. And then I've pulled some cards, which I pulled this morning, which all kind of ties in together, as it does always. Thank you, Universe, for the guidance. And yeah, so any new moon is a great time to set new intentions. And because in a full moon, it's kind of letting the new moon brings about it just brings about new energy, new time to feel alive. It's like, just say like we've got a little kid. It's like, you know, it's new, it's exciting. They're bringing about like their personality. They're coming into their personality. And so like, if you can imagine a new moon exactly like that, it's bringing about their newness, bringing about like their exploration to the world and how they see it. So it's like seeing it through a different lens. And so if we can keep that in mind while we're maybe setting some intentions today, that like, what is it that's really exciting for us? What is it that we can bring about? What is it that we want to change? And yeah, so I'm excited. There's been a lot of energies. A lot of craziness in the last 5 months, and I feel like now's the time to settle that all in and be grateful for where we are right in this minute and be able to refresh it with new intentions, because the Taurus New Moon brings in abundance and being able to feel into our intuition and our inner knowing. And it has us like sitting in stillness, but being able to feel the power of like that inner fire, that inner, like we know something's coming, and it's just like holding impatience of like it just takes a little bit of time sometimes. And sometimes when we want to control the outcome as like we want it now, that's really resisting what is meant to come to us. So being in the frequency of allowing and just letting it all come through as it's meant to, and not pushing to have something else, because usually we find we actually receive something way better than what we can actually think of, so it's just allowing the process, sitting with it and letting everything go. There's no need to force anything. And it also is like bringing about tapping into the skills that we already possess to create harmony and balance in our lives. So we all, we've all walked different paths. We all have different skills, and just really like using those skills to propel us forward, to move forward. And we already have tools to be able to balance out our nervous system, and getting how we operate in our daily life is like, what tools do we use to have us come from our heart and really sit in balancing out our nervous system. There's some things like, Chris, what do you do? What's something that you do daily or weekly or whatever?
Well, I think one of the big things that I do is that every morning when I wake up, I have a morning routine, and that includes prayer and meditation and a focused book study. Typically, I will read something out of the Bible myself, but it could be any type of motivational book, anything that you do. So that way I give myself actually a chance to connect with my authentic self, right? And this, what I like to talk about is the difference between identity and authenticity. So authenticity, what you're talking about, right, is from the heart. Identity is what we put in our mind. So if we wake up and we look in the mirror, we're like, oh, I'm fat, then that already sets the intention for the day of like that I'm behind, like on the things I want to accomplish. So then I don't care as much about family or community or work or anything else like that, because I've already set the intention that I'm failing in life. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect.
So yeah, so for me, I love to wake up in celebration. I wake up with my favorite song on the, on my phone, obviously nowadays, but it used to be on the radio, whatever. And then, when I get up and I'm like, and I tell them, I'm like, okay, thanks. I got another day. What am I going to do today to help other people and also move forward in my life?
Yeah. And Diane, what do you do on a daily basis that helps you feel good for your day? Like, what are some of the things that you would bring into your daily routine?
I wake up happy every day. The sun's shining. I have a smile on my face, and it's so lovely to be amongst all my loved ones and say good morning. And then I start my day with my breakfast, and I go off to work. So yeah, my days are, my intentions are always good. I always am a happy person to start my day. So I do feel good about each morning.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like it can look different for everyone. Like it can be mantras, it can be affirmations, it can be breath work, it can be meditation, it can be sitting in the sun, it can be having breakfast outside in the nature. Like it can be anything to start your day, to really feel good. So we know these things, and then if we can just come back to that every day, it balances out our nervous system. We're able to get through the day and be like, yes, I actually feel good today. And the more times we feel good, we're bringing more of that into our lives.
Yes, so definitely the sunshine does do that to me. I really love to sit in the sun and enjoy my cuppa in the sun. So yeah, the sun is a healing process for me, and I love it.
Abundance. Amanda, what do you do to reset your nervous system throughout the day.
Yeah, the same thing. Like the morning practice is vital for me to get up and start my day. Like I really feel tuning into my higher self and asking like, what is it today that I'm to do, or like just being open to receiving maybe something that I didn't even think of, you know, because that's our higher self. Our higher self comes in and sets the tone for, like, some days I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this today, but actually it's like, you know, you're going to do this today, you know, like, so just being aware of that, like that voice that's speaking is our inner knowing, is our intuition, is our higher self. Everything is all one. So the more we can be quiet and still and be patient, the more we'll hear those voices, the more we'll hear allow our inner knowing to really come through and support in what in us moving forward. So yeah, that's really cool. It's so this morning when I was doing my morning practice, I actually pulled cards and I was like, what needs to come out today? And so this one here was growth. And it says, I want to expand my consciousness and my awareness, which is perfect because we were just like literally speaking about that.
Yeah.
You know, like us tuning into ourselves every day allows for that growth to come through. When we are quiet, that's when it all happens. That's when the magic happens. When we are so in our mind, that's like we're literally resisting what is meant to be coming to us. When we can be here and just be like, okay, like, what is it I'm meant to be doing today? This is growth. You know, when we're here, it's allowing that growth to come through. So that was the first card that I pulled. And so what comes next is answer the call. So really beautiful card, and it says, what is your soul calling you to do? So exactly like what we were just saying, you know, like speaking to the soul in the morning and speaking to our higher self. This is, you know, like, what is it we're meant to be doing? And the more we can tune in and listen, like and be able to experience joy and fun, abundance, pleasure, that is bringing more about of that. You know, the more we are in fear or in anxiousness, it's really resisting everything that we are wanting. And so like I would like to look at a day and like on a scale, you know, like on a scale of 10, how much are we sitting in love? How much are we sitting in fear? And those things that we're sitting in fear, like, how can we look at them through the eyes of love? You know, like and if we can get the scale up to more like, you know, 9, 10, great, we're living our best life. You know, when we're sitting in love and appreciation and like just our inner knowing, like everything's going to be okay, everything is working out, we're living our best life. Yes, Chris Stewart.
No, I'm glad I just want to interject here for a lot of people because I think this is really important. And, you know, one of the things that came up with my intention for today was that I have a calling, right? And that calling is to help people overcome addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you live in Australia where it's a little bit different, but, you know, here in the States, you know, we had over 100,000 people die from just drug addiction alone last year, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I'm the perfect person for this, but I'm just saying I have a solution for that. That's like kind of like what my calling is to help people overcome that, right? I've been successful in that. I have my own business in that, and I help a lot of people. But one of the things that I've been lacking is that I don't really put it out there because I don't want to be known as the, you know, addict guy. I don't want people to know about my past, because now where I'm at in my life, that doesn't play a part. So I almost get embarrassed. I mean, we're in a safe place, so I'm just going to share this for people listening, but I get embarrassed that like that is what happened to me in my life in the past, because I couldn't deal with my emotions. I had a lot of childhood trauma, I had a lot of anger, things I couldn't deal with. So I chose drugs as my solution, right, to get through that, to kind of calm me down, to deal with whatever. And then it turned into something that I couldn't control, and it controlled me, right? And when I've spent, the last decade plus working through that, and then have gone and helped a lot of people, that was just so funny that that's the card you pulled. That's what I'm making a point of, is because I'm like, I need to get over worrying about what it looks like for me when 100,000 people die, and I could have maybe said something to them that would have kept them from that thing, because it affects not just those 100,000 people, but each of their families. That's 100,000 families. That's like 400,000, 500,000 people plus their relatives. That's a million, and you just exponential like all that stuff. And it's just interesting that that's the card you pulled, because I made a commitment to myself this morning. I'm like, it's not about how people view you. It's about the message that you send out to help others, right? And I think that's key. So I just wanted to share that, to tie in with that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that share. And that obviously ties into the next card, which is Unbound. And it's releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. So literally when we come to earth, when we put our hand up, it's we put our hand up to having certain lessons, certain paths that kind of lead us to the result, to lead us to the what we're meant to be doing, and that's where the magic is. All the things, if we look at our life like on a span and go, okay, what's really happened? For me, it's been a lot through relationships, a lot through toxic relationships. But I had to have those experiences because I had to hit rock bottom to be able to bring light to that. We have to go down into the depths of what it is to be able to have that impact, and I think that's what you're talking about with the addiction. Like, you had to go that, you had to experience that to be able to have such a passion and such a standing for what you're talking about, right? Like, we can't have experiences, and like, if they're not meaningful, we can't spread light, we can't spread love, because we don't know. It's only when we're at the lowest, we're in the trenches, we've had to do some inner growing, some inner work to be able to be in a position to spread light. Like, Mum, Diane, what's one of the like, what's like, if you were to look at life, like, what do you think your biggest takeaway is, like, from the lessons that you've learned?
I've over the years with my marriage breakdown, and I feel that I now have learnt to love myself and to love others as much. I've certainly looked at myself in a different way since this has all happened. Of course, I like to blame the other person, but they have their reasons for doing what they've done. And I've learned to accept and move on, and learn to create me again, and learn to love myself again.
And I think that's, like, that's personal growth. That's wanting to do better. That's taking responsibility. There's, in any relationship, there's always two people, and we can see through this lens and it will be one thing, but then someone else will see through another lens and see something totally different. And when we are in these relationships that kind of bring to the surface what it is that is reflected to us, then we get the opportunity then to look at that and go, okay, well, what was my part in that? How can I improve on that? How can the next relationship, or how can I be better? And that's what it's about. It's like, bit by bit, we get to choose, like, do we want to be better, or do we stay in a place where we're not learning, because we know that that's going to come back around. And what happens in life is like when we actually get the opportunity to better ourselves, to understand it from a different lens, we upgrade to a new level. But if we choose to stay at that level where we attracted that relationship, let's say, attracted that relationship, if we don't grow, we're going to attract that same thing because there's a lesson to be learned there. And that's
Yes.
why, like, I can say in my life, you know, going through 2 marriages, that was the thing. Like, I had to learn some certain lessons and I had to get it pretty toxic for me to get that message, you know, loud and clear. And that's why I'm here today, being able to share the message, being able to share the things that I share, because I've gone through it. And I think that ties back into you, Chris. It's like, you know, we have to take ourselves out of this and just be really present with, like, wow, I can make such an impact. Like, just because it happened to me, my higher self knows, like, this is what I'm here to share. You know, you're very tapped in, and like, there is nothing to fear because we know we channel from source. You know, it wouldn't be coming through you to share the message if it wasn't meant to. You know, there'd be some other message to share.
One of the things that I think is important here to acknowledge is when Diane was sharing the amount of forgiveness that's involved in that. I know we label it personal growth, so it's moving forward. At the same time, without the ability to forgive ourselves and the other people that were involved, then there's not that opportunity to actually move forward. And I think a lot of people, and you know, please weigh in on this, confuse forgiveness with acceptance of the way they were treated. And forgiveness is not the way that you were treated. Forgiveness is the ability to let that go so you can move forward. It doesn't condone, it doesn't like let that person off the hook. It doesn't, you know, accept them for the things that they did to us. It just allows us to go, there's nothing I can do to fix that now except for to let it go and move forward, right?
Yeah.
But
100%.
my question to you, Amanda, on this, just curious, and to you, Diane, as well, is when we go through all these, let's be honest, like all these really tough times in life, whether or not it's a toxic relationship, whether or not it's an addiction, whether or not it's, you know, maybe some kind of physical abuse, or for the people that will watch this later, maybe physical or sexual abuse as a child or things like that. How do we, or how do you think that we embrace that to help other people and not still be upset that it happened? Like, because for myself, even though I move forward and I do these things, I still don't ever appreciate the fact that I had to go through that to get here. I would have rather not gone through this and just had a great life. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of people that will watch this will be like, well, yeah, like, I mean, I went through all these things, but I don't want to talk about it because I still have shame around it, or maybe like I didn't deserve it, or you know, they get in that what we call the victim role, right? So like, oh well, you know, how can I be happy about telling people about all the miserable things in my life, right? And I don't think that's the case. But you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense for both of you? Like, because when we look back, like I look back, I'm like, I wish I never even would have tried drugs to begin with, right? So that way I wouldn't have had to go through all that stuff to get to a place where I could help people. I felt like I was good already, you know what I mean? And the same thing in relationships. I mean, like, you know, I've been through the same kind of things as you in relationships. I'm like, I wish I just would have like picked the right person. Like, why did I have to pick 2 or 3 people that that were not good for me, so I could get to maybe hopefully one day the one that is, you know what I mean? And then see if that works, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you know? Like, what's your view on that?
Well, like, it literally, if we see it through the lens of where we're at, you know, like back, you take it back those years, like through the lens for you, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but for you at that point, it was like an escape. So it was kind of like fun. It was like, you know, spontaneous. It was all those things. But you are at that level.
You know what it was? It was a coping mechanism.
That's right. So
yeah, so I mean, there was definitely some fun to it, but then when it wasn't fun anymore, it was a coping mechanism as the escape, right? And so when we look at that in relationships, how do we define that, right? Because we get into a relationship because we want intimacy, we want not to be lonely, we want to be supported, we want to be loved, we want to be taken care of by another person, you know, in that way. And then all of a sudden it turns to the fact of like where it's lopsided,
yeah,
where one person controls the relationship, right?
yeah.
So
And this is
how,
yeah.
but no, but do you understand what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
when you get past that point, what do you think is key for people to understand that, okay, now I actually understand, now I'm in a toxic relationship, I'm in a toxic addiction, I'm in a toxic career. How do I pull back from that and get my own self back? I think you would speak beautifully into this.
Yeah. So for me, like if we tie this whole conversation into our inner knowing, we know when we're happy, right? We know, you know, we know the difference between not being happy and being happy, or being fulfilled or not being fulfilled. And anytime that we have these defense mechanisms, like our nervous system has that reaction of like, oh, this is not feeling good for me. Oh, like that ickiness, that yuckiness. When we are actually feeling that, we have to, if we're willing to, dig a little bit deeper as to what that actually is. And sometimes it can go a few layers deep. It might not be like, just say we had a frustration that we've taken out on someone, right? That frustration that we've taken out on someone, what is underneath that? Is it that person? Or is it just that they're on the receiving end of something unprocessed that we just need to go backwards a few steps? You know, like it could have been the traffic on a Friday afternoon getting home, right? You were in a hurry, you want to get home. And so that's initially where it could start, but then something else on your way home, like someone tries to cut you off. So then you're adding another piece of frustration to that, right? And then we forget about all these things, like how many times do these things add up? And then the next day we wake up, we're in a foul mood, we go to the mirror, we don't like who we are, we don't like what we see, and we're like, oh, frustrated, right? Because we haven't processed what's happened those few layers deep. So the person on the other side of that frustration the next day or the next week, whatever it is, it doesn't even have anything to do with that person. It's the way you've been feeling because of this compounding effect. When we're compounding the frustration, other people, or, you know, it's kind of like it snowballs until it bangs, until it erupts. And this is what happens in relationships, and what happens in, you know, addictions, is that it'll keep going, it'll keep going, it'll keep going. We're not processing what we're actually feeling, what's actually going on. Like in our body, we know, okay, I'm not feeling so great today, like I'm not on top of the world and I'm not super happy, like I've woken up frustrated. What is that? You know, like being, and this is the, like when we can be really present with ourselves, when we can take that moment and just be able to sit with our heart and sit with our higher self, even like if we don't know the answer, it'll come through in some kind of message, you know. And I think this is really important. Like the more awareness we have around this stuff, the more we can dig deeper. When we aren't aware, life just becomes sometimes a little bit of a mess. Hence drug addiction, hence sex addiction, porn addiction, because we're not actually understanding what is going on and how far back it like where it starts. Does that kind of answer?
But Amanda, do you think at some time that if we actually spoke out instead of keeping this all to our inner self, that there would be a different situation in the whole, and as a whole?
Yeah, of course. And this is the thing why we have these techniques, you know, like if it's meditation, or if it's more likely that you want to journal, you know, these thoughts that we have, if we can't verbalize to a person, or we can't verbalize, we actually don't know what it is, we can ask our higher self as well, like, higher self, speak through me. Like, what is this? I don't understand where this is coming from or why I'm feeling like this. Please help me understand. And it might not be in that moment, but it might come through later on. You'll get this inner knowing of like, that's why, you know? And so it's really important, like, the more we can get our feelings out, whether that be verbalizing it to someone or to ourselves, whatever, or to be able to write it out, it's not stuck in our body. So when we have a whole lot of negative feelings in our body, it becomes toxic. And so if we're looking through a toxic lens, guess what we're seeing? Everything that we go through in our day, everything, it becomes toxic. Our relationship becomes toxic. Our money becomes toxic. Our work becomes toxic because there's negativity in our bodies. We're holding so much toxicity. And so when we get it out, it allows more space for us to come back to our heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. I agree with that. And I totally did done a lot of writing, and I never used to write, but that is where I my inner self became I became that better person by writing everything down. And that's what I'm saying. I learned to love myself from that because I was able to get my frustrations out onto a piece of paper.
Yeah. It's not holding it.
That's a very therapeutic. Yeah, it's a very therapeutic way to do things. A lot of people don't understand journaling is actually a very therapeutic way to get what's up in here down on paper so you can actually see what you're actually thinking.
Mhm.
Because typically it takes a lot of air out of the tires that way, if that makes sense, about like all the things you think are negative about that. One of the things I think to piggyback on what you've been saying though is, do you personally, like just you, Amanda G, believe that when you get to the lowest point of low, do you think you can actually ever rival that on the other side of like as the heights, right? So like from rebounding from toxic relationships, rebounding from addictions and things like that, do you actually believe that you can actually get from that rock bottom to like, let's say heavenly heights, right? Just because that's the only word I can think of right now. Do you actually believe you can actually accomplish that? And more importantly, what do you think is important for people to understand on the timeline of that? Because I know so many people that go back to addiction, so many people go back to toxic relationships, so many people go back to jobs they hate and things like that because they try it for a week or two and like, well, I'm trying to do the right thing for almost a month now, and I haven't found anybody new that like is amazing yet, and I haven't got a new job that's amazing, and I've been sober for a month or whatever they're going to be, and like, it sucks and I don't like any of the feelings I'm having, so I might as well just go back. Speaking of that from your perspective.
Well, it's easy to go back to what we know, right? It takes courage and it takes devotion to get over these things. Like, we can be very happy in what we're doing. And that's why we go back to these things, because they're comfortable. That's what people know. But when we are able to sit more in love, there is no place for there is when we're like on a scale of 10, 9 or 10 in love, there is no it does not make room for shames, for guilt, for dishonesty, for mistrust. Like, we just know, like when we're sitting more in love, we just know. So there's a lot of everyone's on a different path. And for me, like, personal, like, growth is so super important for me. Like, I want to be able to grow more and be able to hold more love in my field. But some people are here to not do that. They're here to be a victim. They're here because that's part of their soul contract, So it's people will only level up to what it is they want. If growth is not important, they will go back to addiction. They will go back to something else because it brings them comfort. And it may, on the outside, look like it's something bad, right? But they're getting something out of it. What are they getting out of it?
Sure. No, for somebody like yourself who's gone through all these things, and also like you're building a business, right? And sometimes things just don't work out the way you want, right? Now, can you give the people that are listening, Diane, myself, and everybody else that will watch this, maybe like one really great thing that has worked for you to where that you use on a daily or weekly basis to keep going, knowing that this is your calling?
Yeah, again, it like literally it comes back to my nervous system, and I know my my nervous system is my go-to. You know, like I know
Your
when,
gauge.
yeah, I know when things are not good for me, and I will abandon ship, so to speak. In like, and I just, because I built that relationship with myself, I trust my inner knowing enough, and I know when things are not good for me, and when they are. And so it goes back to that gauge of like, okay, if I know that I'm waking up or I'm not sleeping at night, I know something's not right in my reality, my current reality, that is having me feel anxious, you know? And so it could look different for everyone. Like if we're not sleeping at night, if we have these things that are going on, something in our nervous system is not okay. And so we've really got to pinpoint what that is first, you know, like and understanding, okay, is it relationship? Is it work? Is it something else? You know, like we have to be so understanding of ourselves, but giving ourselves also like it's okay, like where we're at is okay. You know, not being so harsh on ourselves. It doesn't allow for us to open up and to really get what it is we're meant to be learning. You know, does that kind of help in what you were asking?
Yeah, no, I think that, like the really what you said right there, it sums it all up. We have to not be so harsh on ourselves. Like nobody, no matter what toxic relationship we were in, no matter what kind of addiction we have, no matter what kind of boss we have that treats us like crap, that none of those people will ever measure up to the way we treat ourselves.
Mm.
Right? Like so, like we will treat ourselves way worse than any of those people, but we will blame those people for the situation that we're in and not take a look at ourselves.
Mm.
I
And
think
on
that's
that,
key for most people,
yeah,
right?
and on that
It's
point,
like we blame our boss if we don't like our job, but we don't look at ourselves like you're the one that picked this job. We blame the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the wife or the husband in the relationship because we don't like the relationship, and we're like, well, I picked you. We blame ourselves for the addiction or whatever, but it's like we were the ones that picked up a drink when we knew we didn't need a drink, or we picked up a drug when we didn't need a drug, or we picked up food when we weren't hungry, or we picked up any kind of addiction, right? Like gambling. Like I started going to the casino for what? Because I was lonely, right? A lot of time it's like I don't think we understand the human element of loneliness and the devastating effects that it has on all of the choices that we make in life.
hmm. Yeah, yeah, and this is like being real with ourselves, right? Like if we're not real, if we can't be real with ourselves, we're not going to be real with anyone else. And that's like key, being super honest with ourselves. Like sometimes we like to tell a little story, and I know in definitely in my relationships, I used to tell little white lies, not intentionally, so I didn't want to get in trouble. So it was just easier to escape. But when I actually got real, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I did that. You know, like I was asking for attention.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Amanda, that's also fear, the fear of your partner.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that play into that, and obviously that was the level that I was playing at, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have tracted that. Everything is always a reflection. Our reality, the way we live each day, is a super in our face reality of where we're at with ourselves. When our reality is good, like majority of the time we're good, we're like, that's reflecting where we're at with ourselves. And so people meet us on that level. When we're reflecting not a great reality and say we're lonely, we're going to get someone else that's lonely and then needy, and then it just turns into you know, this enmeshment of
Codependency.
codependency. That's right. Because why? We didn't go into that relationship with intention of finding our life partner. We went into that relationship to fill a need, to feel someone next to me is better than having no one. You know what I mean? Or whatever it may be. So when we're actually real with ourselves, we can come back and just be like, take responsibility, but not hate on ourselves as well. You know, like it is what it is. But guess what? Now I know that. So I can do better next time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so the third card that was, oh, well, the fourth card, but the three out of this was you're already doing it. So stop overthinking, keep facing your true north. So your true north is your nervous system, is what brings you joy, what brings you abundance, what brings you passion, like what fills your cup every day. You know, that's your true north. When something's missing, you're not facing true north. But those pieces come back to how much we love ourselves. How much can we allow ourselves just to be free? And when we are free in our inner knowing, like we can share a message, you know what I mean, without having that fear, because maybe there's another piece there that's kind of like just coming back to what you said before, that you know, you still fear the, you know, like people having a certain perception of who you are. But if you really knew who you were, if you were really honest with yourself, you know, like, no, that's not who I am. Like, F you, this is who I am. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, when I know, I know. Like, I'll stand up and I'll be like, this is who I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing with me. Like, people can make judgment. I've written a post about this. People can make judgment because I've been married twice. But I've done enough work here. Like, I know, I'm like, ah, you know, the person that's going to stand next to me knows, like, that should not worry them, you know, because I stand completely in, like, the truth of who I am and what it is. You know, like when we can completely stand in that truth and that knowing, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares what people say? You know, and a perfect example of this is also through family relationships. You know, when I didn't know myself, I was so caught up in everyone else's stuff that I couldn't stand up for myself. But when I started standing up for myself, well, then it's like, oh, what's the problem? What's she doing? What you know? It's like, I don't need to prove myself to anyone. I am who I am, and I'll be who I want. You know, like, go for it.
Go.
You ain't gonna tell me. So Chris Stewart, on that note, like, who cares? No, it's a story it's still telling that is keeping you stuck. When you're like, this is who I am.
I think, and you know, and you're totally right, because this is what keeps people from achieving anything. You know, it's funny you would even say it, because my number one intention for the new moon, right, is to embrace my body, right? And so you know, I'm 53 now for the people that are watching this, and from the time I was like 13, I've never liked the way that I looked, maybe even before that. So I spent the last 40 years trying to turn myself into something that there's no possible way I could turn myself into. And I don't mean that like as a human being, I mean body style, right? Like, I was born to parents that were like 5 2. I think my mom and my dad's like 5'8". I want to be 6'4". I was born to 2 parents with curly hair. I want to have long straight hair. You know what I mean? Everything that I was born into as who I am, I placed on my physical appearance, right? And you know, and obviously you and Diane already know this, but you know, like my whole life was based on being a rock star. And to be a rock star, like, you know, like there's a very specific body type. It is not the body type I was born with. And so I spent my whole life, you know, and this is where it kind of like a lot of the addiction comes in as well, right? Because like I don't want to eat, I don't want to get fat, so I'm going to do this kind of thing, or you know, or I drink this much, so now I feel, you know, like in this and that. And then as you go through life, then all of a sudden everything becomes a consequence for the action. It doesn't become who you are. So it's like I go to the gym 5 days a week, not because I want to be in good shape, but because I want to eat 5 pieces of chocolate cake a week. So if I go to the gym 5 days a week, then I can eat that, or whatever that looks like in anybody else's life. But does that make sense? And the thing is, you have to realize, like, you know, I spent 80% of my life making every decision based on my body style, not on actually how I wanted to live.
Mm-hmm. And I
And that, well, and I think, I mean, and the thing is, I say this because, you know, I work with a lot of kids, and especially I work with a lot of like young females, and it's the same thing. I mean, I'm sure you can speak in this. That's why I'm bringing it up, is because, you know, I'll talk with girls that are 12, 13 years old, and they look completely normal, and they're like, I'm fat, I'm gross, nobody will ever like me, I'm not going to eat, I'm going to, you know what I mean? And we have this whole kind of body shaming thing that happens and just in society alone, especially with females, about where they have to look a certain way in order to be liked or loved or this kind of thing. And also I think a lot of, you know, and then it goes back and forth with men as well, right? Men have to be this certain, you know, 6-pack ab, multi-muscled, perfect, you know, thing. And like that's just not reality, right? It's like in both cases, it's a 1% thing in either one, right? Like there's only 1% supermodel and 1% Superman. Like, and then everybody else fits in between. And we spend our whole lives like trying to chase these things that are inauthentic, but also, you know, there's just certain things that you can't achieve based on the way that you were born, right?
Mm. And usually, like, the more that we hate, like coming back to before, it's like that resistance is there, right? So the more we hate on
What
ourselves,
you resist will persist, right? So it's like the more that you hate being overweight, the more overweight you will become. The
yeah.
more you don't like being pimply, the more pimply you will become, or
That's
whatever
the
that looks like. As
process, right? We look in a mirror and we're like,
yeah,
I'm fat. So every day
yeah,
you
because
think like, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. Like every day that's compounding. It's like, what do you expect? You know, like, of
yeah,
course you're gonna get fat.
The mirror begins to talk to you.
yeah.
Well, it can, and this is the journey that we all go through, right? We signed up for this.
Well, that's what I mean. That's just why we're bringing it up, though, because it's about the new intention. So my new intention is like, hey, listen, like let's start taking care of the body, right? Because we don't understand that the inner works of the body start to get negatively impacted based on those decisions, right? Like because you do certain things, you eat too much sugar, you start to, you know, have bad dental, you have bad teeth, right? Because you chose to eat this kind of food. Now you have this, you know, stomach problem. You have, like, there's never been a time in society where more people have more stomach and gastrointestinal problems, and yet we eat healthier than we ever have. How's that possible? Right? How did we go from eating like steak and eggs and bacon every single day and smoking cigarettes, you know, like to eating salads and fish, and nobody can even smoke anywhere in public, and yet we're still sicker than how we used to be when we did all that other stuff, right? It's because
Our
there's no balance there, right?
our food is so full of chemicals and process. Like, even though you think fruit or you think salad, it's so super laden with, unless you're buying organic, like pesticides and whatever. And so this is toxins in our body also, which have an effect on the way we feel, which have an effect on the way our nervous system is, because it's toxins going into our body. So there's so many things that can make our body and our thoughts and our mind toxic, but it comes down to like, what do we value? You know, like if health is important, we will make sure that we do what we can in what we in the resources that we have to be healthy, right? It's like everything is a choice. Everything is, it comes down to our values. You know, like I was having a conversation with my dad the other day. I'm like, it came up in the morning, like, how come I'm the only one in my family that exercises, right? When my other family members don't exercise, because I value that. I've always valued it and I feel good doing it. And because I have valued it from the get-go, it's no problem for me to put it into my daily routine. It's like health. If I value health, I will make sure that I eat healthy, and the 90 or 85 to 90% of the time I am eating healthy. You know, it's about what we value. Some people value whatever, drugs, you know, like,
Well, I think like also part of what you're saying also depends on what generation you grew up in, right? And like what information you know, right? Because like to you, your dad is his value is hard work, not exercise. So he's not going to exercise because his job was to provide for your family, right? And he would do that not by exercising, but by working hard.
yeah,
And a lot of the work that he does, right, would also be included kind of as exercise because he's build and push and pull, things like that. But I think it's important for the people that watch this video to understand, like, they have to continually grow, right? Which is what you would say, into what are some of the advantages now that we know, like right now that we know that smoking causes lung cancer, like then we don't need to smoke anymore, right? Or those kind of things, right? Now that we know that eating fast food actually is like terrible for you, not just a convenience, then we know we can't do that, right? I think one of the most important things that I always talk about too, and I think this really applies to the conversation we're having, is that all of the foods that we eat have so many hormones in them now. The average age of a woman growing breasts and starting her period has gone from like 14 to 15 down to 9, right? Which is horrific because, as we all know, once a woman starts her menstrual period, she is able to get pregnant. And so that means that now, if there is some kind of sexual abuse or some kind of thing that happens to a child at 10 or 11 years old, they can actually become pregnant. And it has nothing to do with morals or values or lifestyle or social economic status. It has to do with the food that they eat. Because had they not eaten that food in the beginning, they wouldn't have this, that wouldn't have decreased everything to where they were, they're still, because their kids are 10 years old. They might be looking for somebody to love them because they come from an abusive home, right? And it might turn into something else that it's not, right? So I think I'm just piggybacking on what you're saying about the food. Is it's important to like look and see like, hey, listen, like you have to be careful with all the choices, but especially with food choices nowadays, because you don't know what's in the food, and it is literally creating disease and creating things that weren't meant to happen in your body at a rapid rate because we rapidly rated the food, right? Like we feed the cows, we feed the chickens, we feed the pigs, all these hormones to grow quicker, bigger, faster, to give every that stuff. But that is also what you are is what you eat, right? Like that's a simple cliche. And so if you eat a pig that has only been alive for 6 months, but somehow ballooned up to 800 pounds, and that's what you're eating, then guess what? It's going to happen to you. You know what I mean? So it's just really important for people that have children to really recognize, like, it's not just about you're too tired to make dinner, and so we're going to go buy Maccers. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to like think like, how is this going to affect my child or myself and the foods that we eat and the way that we think?
mm, yeah, for sure. And a whole lot of that is about convenience because of the way that we live in the world. And like now is the most important time we start recognizing these things to come back to our authentic self, to come back to love, because the convenience and all of this has us living in a fast-paced reality, when really if we like to move forward in this now time, it's like the switch is happening because we realize all these things. You know, there's enough knowledge, there's enough understanding that bad food equals bad, like, you know, there's
Health,
things.
mental health, everything. Yeah.
So like we are at the time where it's like making that shift. And so this is why it's really important now to really start processing all of the stuff that we are receiving and be able to sit really quietly with ourselves and to recognize, okay, like, whoa, slow things down, because we're so used to going so fast. Slow things down and can really come back to who we are. What is it that we actually desire? What is it that we value? You know, like, and none of that comes about if we can't connect here. If we are here and running, or being so fast in the world, in this fast-paced world that we're currently living in, it turns out into a big snowball and disaster. Whereas now we have enough knowledge, we now understand, like, well, we really need to slow things down to receive the messages, connect with our higher self, to connect with to what it is that we really want. And when we can actually slow down that process and start taking responsibility, but also be open to new ways. You know, like, this is how the world is going to change, and this is why they talk about a new earth, is because we are at this point now where it's like, whoa, it can go, there's can be a volcano, or we can start trying to unravel this and take a different path, go down a new route, because we know enough. There's been enough of everything that's been going on in the world that we can take a step back. But the more people that individually take a step back, it's creating that energetic effect all over the world. You know, just by having this conversation, we're planting seeds of light all over where we are, right? And whoever listens to this replay, it is coding the way we are living in this world. And this is how we bring about a new way of doing things, by coming back to ourselves and having these conversations. It's planting seeds of light all over the world. That's how we change. And this is, you know, like, this is what I'm an advocate for. Like, energetic, like, you know, my reality may look a little bit different, but energetically, that's what's happening. All right, I think we've, like, I don't even know how long this
Well, and I just want to say, I'm just so grateful that you do the work that you do, and you make such a huge difference in the world, you know. And I'm glad that you established this group and allow people a place to come and talk about all the stuff they want, and, you know, and you always respond to messages. You always, you know, like, you definitely walk exactly the way that you talk, which is amazing. It's so hard to find, especially in somebody who is a personal development / growth / spiritual leader in the world, to actually see the real deal at all times. Nothing ever changes, and that's an amazing thing. So thank you for having this group tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. So great. No, like, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know what it is, like, where I'm going, but I also am at that point where I'm just super allowing of, like, what that actually looks like. I don't know. I can't directly see the impact, but this is the kind of thing that lights me up, is having these conversations and be able to plant the seeds of light to have, like, even if it's like that one light bulb moment, you know, like one light bulb moment in a conversation that has you change the directory of, like, where you're actually going, rather than, like, that old story of what it was. You know, like, we can all tell a good story, but that one light bulb moment of, like, you know, like, everything clicks into place. And I guess that's, you know, that those are the seeds of light. At some point, you know, like, the more lights that get turned on all over the world, like, by having these spaces, by creating community like this, where it's like the light is going to shine more than the darkness. But we're in this transition phase at the moment. We just got to trust. We just got to allow that it's all taking place. You know? So thank you for participating and for being here tonight.
Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, so maybe just, like, do you want to go into some intentions now really quick? Like, or do you want to do intentions on our own? Like, where I feel like this conversation's been long, and I know it's getting late for you, Chris, George. Well, I don't even know how long
Right.
we've been for, but
Yeah, I don't know. Been a couple hours. That's all right. I can be here all night. Doesn't matter to me.
all right. So I think, like, bringing back to this new moon. So we want to think about. Let's just go. Some new intentions around abundance, beauty, love, and pleasure. Okay, so because it's because this Taurus new moon is related to Venus, and Venus brings about abundance, beauty, love, pleasure. Like, what is it that we value about those things? What is it that we want to see in those areas? And I think that will make it easier. And literally, we just write these new intentions down, and the way you can start is like, I intend in this new moon to bring forward whatever the abundance is, whatever the love is, whatever the beauty is, whatever the pleasure. So let me just put that up in the comments. So it's new intention around abundance, love, beauty, and that, Chris, ties into your conversation around body. You know, like, what is it? That's beauty. How can you show up in more beauty and pleasure? All right. So I'm just going to put a little bit of music on. We'll take. Let's come back in 5 minutes. Be enough?
That's fine by me. I'm ready to go. So.
Okay. Diane, you got your pen and paper?
I'll get my pen and paper.
All right. Okay. So the instructions are on the slide. You should be able to see that. If not, new intention: abundance, love, beauty, and pleasure.
Namaste.
I came prepared.
Okay. All right, one more minute. Okay. Aw. I love that. It's called Devi Prayer if anyone wants to know what that is. I just love it. I could listen to it all day.
It is very amazing, very soothing.
Uh-huh. Awesome. Is there anything that you wanted to share into the space? Anything more that was coming up, or anything that you wanted to share? Any intentions that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I'll go
Okay.
just to get the ball rolling. So I put for abundance is to organize my work stuff, because I work a lot and I don't necessarily get the results that I want because I don't organize it. Then I just kind of go, oh, if I can work 80 hours this week, then I will. And then the next week, if I don't feel like working, then I won't. And then I'm like, oh, now I have to work 80 hours again because I didn't work at all or whatever. So there's that. So for any of you people out there that are passive aggressive when it comes to work, there's that.
Consistency.
But also just creating the abundance, because I'm abundant one week and then not the next. And then the next week I am, and I don't keep it. It's not sustainable. So that creates some nervous system stuff, right? Which we talked about earlier. And then I'm not happy. So there's that. The other thing is the one I shared earlier about the physical. That would be under beauty. So my physical appearance, the way that I am, and the things that I have control over and the things that I don't, but to focus on obviously a healthier way of just being like loving myself, so I don't have to worry about everything has to be like, I can't eat this unless I go to the gym first. I can't do this like that, because then that creates stress, which, as we all know, releases cortisol, which then makes you fat. So there you go. For under love, I put be of more service to youth and create a safe community for kids that are dealing with so much stuff right now. I mean, kids have never been more attacked by social media, by COVID, by just all these things in life, and they need a safe place to come, and I can provide that. So that is under my love aspect. And then under pleasure, I put actually start to receive. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I'm one of those people that loves to give pleasure to other people, always encourage other people, always bring them things, make them food, bring them coffee, all these things. But if somebody tries to do it for me, I always like, no, I'm good. No. Oh, what would you? No, it doesn't matter. Like, so I'm going to work on actually receiving pleasure in the way of like, if somebody would like to do something nice for me or say an encouraging word, I'm not going to just dismiss it right off the bat. It's like, no, that's right. It's fine. This is what I do. Yeah. No, thank you. I didn't save your kid's life. Whatever it is, I'm going to actually be, oh, thank you. That's nice. Right. And so it's the receiving of pleasure, not the giving of pleasure, that I need to work on.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's true for like a lot of a lot of us, is being able to
Yeah.
be in the spot of receiving, not always giving, so
Yeah.
with my intention. Yay. Diane, did you want to add anything into the circle, or you want to keep that?
Oh, I just got my little notes here, but I the pleasure is just like I feel feeling happy and satisfied is something that's important to me, and I'd like to bring that, sort of that feeling of happiness and satisfied with what's going on within my life. Beauty, well, I don't believe it's in the facial, in your facial mode. True beauty is in a woman is the reflection in her soul, I think, and that's what I think with the beauty, abundance, plentifulness of good things of life and growth of industry, and promised wealth. And I think that moving forward with what's happening within my life, and hopefully things will come to fruition this week. And I think, well, that's my abundance that I'm looking for right now. And love, well, I just feel I'm so loved, especially with my grandchildren. And I really feel, and I have a grandson today who's turning 1, and how wonderful that is. And I just feel so loved that I have that, the love for my grandchildren.
And the intention of that is to bring that love back to you.
Back to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Beautifully said, Diane. That was great.
yeah. Sometimes our intentions are outwardly focused, not inwardly focused, like, so you can, like, that receiving is, we can receive that love for ourselves, not like, so that, yeah, that's great.
Amanda, what are you bringing to the circle?
So abundance keeps spreading impact with trust in my heart that I'm financially supported for the light that I'm spreading. So it's like that, that give receive cycle. Yeah, and to be on an energetic level of wealth, abundance, prosperity, and money, because everything has a energetic level. So sort of focusing more on that rather than what is, what may be, focusing more energetically. Love to speak my truth in what it is I desire openly and freely. So continue to do that. And beauty, to allow flow in my body, and like I feel like I'm going through a big initiation at the moment with some goddess, sensual goddess codes, and to really just relax into that. And I know that this part of the initiation is for me to bring it to the world. And so just trusting that process again in like who I am, what I'm here to do. And yeah, that comes through. The beauty is just by like going through the process. And pleasure, like allowing, I wrote 2 hours a week to pleasure myself in, it could be anything, taking me away from work, because sometimes I can be like, go, trying, or giving, and not receiving. So for myself is like, like if I want to go for a walk, that gives me pleasure, rather than make that a priority, rather than, no, I don't have time for that. So just like turning pleasure into priority, and it can be in whatever regard that brings me pleasure. Yeah, so awesome. Well, look, the intentions are out there. It's what we believe. So if we know that they're out there in the universe, and know that we are forever getting answered. Sometimes why we don't get these things is that there's just something else to clean up in the process to having those things. But not focusing on the not having, focusing on the already having is like key. It's all energetic. So all right, let's just close out this circle and yeah, just give thanks. So just closing down your eyes if you would like to do that. And we just thank you, God, universe, that we had this time and this space today to connect all over the world and spread seeds of light. And for anyone watching the replay, we're just taking the time to, be open to listening to something new, something exciting. And yeah, let's just make sure that we are always in love and light. And if we aren't, it is okay, but also just processing that when we're not in love and light, processing, coming back to our heart, and sort of do a bit of inner detective work as to like why did that happen, or like how did that happen. And this allows us to be more authentically ourselves and to speak our truth. So just allowing all this to take place, and we just thank you for, again, this space, this time, and the love that we share between ourselves and all over the world. So thank you. So it is. Amen. Yay. All right.
Bye.
Bye.